Value Impulses with DR. Ulrich Vogel. Personnel Diagnostics Insights, Leadership, Assessments, and Personnel Development. Hello and a warm welcome to a new episode of our Profiling Values podcast. I'm Ulrich Vogel, and we're diving back into sales. The title of our episode today: More Customer Orders Through Clear Potential Analyses. We thought we'd do a little sales series, so we're going to focus a bit more on sales. Why? Look, I've been working for many years with hundreds of consultants, coaches, and trainers. And they're all really top people. I'm incredibly glad to be able to work with them. But they all tend to have one major problem. They don't really get their horsepower onto the road. That they actually get fewer customer orders than they could be getting. They're all good professionally. Content-wise, they're great, really great. But when it comes to professionalism in sales, and even enjoying sales or learning the art of selling, that's where I'd like to contribute a bit and offer some support. And that's why today I have a provocative question for you right off the bat. And that is, do you still trust only your gut feeling when it comes to winning new clients? Yes, if so, it could be that you're really leaving a lot of potential on the table. In this episode, I'm going to talk about how you can acquire more customer orders through clear potential analyses. Potential analysis, a big term. So, the why behind potential analysis. Imagine you're in a meeting with a client and your potential customer asks, so, what actually makes you different from all the other coaches and consultants out there, all of them wanting to get business from me? Oops, yikes. We learned in sales training many years ago about the 3 A's, different from others, that the salesperson should think about what sets them apart. What actually makes them different from others in terms of the 3 A's. But when you're actually in that situation, it happens and, oops, a moment of truth. And it's exactly there that clear and measurable proof really makes the difference. And not just words or your gut feeling. And potential analyses give you exactly that, solid data that convinces. But what exactly are these potential analyses? And the term itself isn't all that simple. It sounds nice. We're analyzing potential, of course. We're talking about people here. But to get to the point, what really are these potential analyses? What's the goal to start with, and how does it actually work? It's about systematically identifying and making visible individual abilities, inclinations, and potential. By the way, that also includes areas where abilities are lacking, in other words, the so-called development areas, because you're not supposed to say weaknesses anymore. So, what tools are used for this? This includes psychometric methods, cognitive tests, and also semi-structured or fully structured interviews. I know, the last part sounds pretty outdated, just like the term assessment or assessment center does in Germany these days. That's why I prefer to call the whole thing a potential analysis, which is also really well received. In German-speaking countries, status assessment is also popular because it includes the idea that it's only temporary. It's not all set in stone. Potential analysis sounds a bit more absolute. Status assessment is a bit softer, meaning it's about the here and now. Or sometimes I also like to call it a development mirror. That goes over really well in a lot of companies. Because it's often about development, after all. We've never fully tapped into 100% of our potential. But in order to develop myself, I have to take a look in the mirror now and then to see myself. And usually, I can't do that all by myself. I need a bit of help with that too. So, potential analysis, status assessment, development mirror, those terms just get to the point much better. But just to say it internationally as well, in the Anglo-Saxon world, in Benelux, in Scandinavia, you can stick with assessment. It's totally common there and has a good association. By the way, that's also the case in Switzerland. Assessment is definitely seen in a positive light there as well. But in Germany, it often triggers negative associations, although in my opinion, there's really no plausible reason for that. If you look at the numbers, they reflect that. About 25% of the German workforce have done some kind of assessment at some point in their working lives. That includes everything. From DISC, red, green, yellow, blue, all the way to the Hogan test or the OPQ. From actual SHL, and so on. Whereas in Anglo-Saxon countries, in the US at least, 100% of the workforce. Now, that doesn't mean everyone has done it, but it does mean that many have done assessments multiple times throughout their careers. So, it's actually kind of silly to think that we don't somehow need a measurement or a diagnosis. We need it at the doctors too. We don't just go to the doctor and believe everything they say without them examining you, without certain blood data or something similar being available. Even at the auto shop, we have them read out the error codes. So why not do the same in our professional lives? So, how exactly do these potential analyses, assessments of where you stand, and development mirrors work? I like to call it the magic of data. So, how does all of this actually work in detail? Imagine psychometric methods as a highly precise X-ray vision. By the way, that's only if they're good psychometric methods, because there are actually quite a lot that aren't so great. But when they're good, more precise, highly precise X-ray vision, they penetrate the surface and show you what's really inside a person. And then we have the cognitive tests, these intelligence detectors that measure your client's thinking abilities. And finally, there are the semi-structured or structured interviews, or rather, those in-depth conversations where you really find out where the strengths and areas for development lie. And of course, there are a few other methods as well, so-called multimodal interviews. These can include, for example, case studies that participants have to prepare, role plays that need to be done spontaneously, prepared presentations, and discussions. There are plenty more beyond that. So, these methods are kind of like magic tools that give you clear and measurable evidence. By the way, if you use profiling values, you can actually skip other cognitive tests. Why? Through our sorting process, meaning this ranking of 4 sets of 18 statements, we can indirectly draw conclusions about people's cognitive capacities without annoying them with those intelligence games. So, it's a very convenient, resource-saving, and pleasant way to get information about that as well. Because with us, it's actually like this: you just move these 4 sets of 18 terms back and forth. It's a bit paradoxical. You describe yourself through this sorting, but without knowing how you're describing yourself, because you can't see through the algorithm. Next step, gut feeling versus data. I've already mentioned gut feeling earlier. We've already touched on data as well. I remember a funny anecdote. A coach who always relied on his gut feeling and claimed he could see everything with his intuition. But when he used a potential analysis for the first time, his comment was, "It's like I've got laser eyes now." So don't get me wrong, intuition is important, but data is honestly worth its weight in gold. They give you control and security that your gut feeling alone could never provide. But by the way, that doesn't mean you should turn off your gut feeling. Not at all, no. We actually need both. Numbers, data, facts, and intuition. So it's not really versus, I have to say, but rather gut feeling and data. But now, let's quickly put ourselves in the customer's shoes again. Customers just love clear results. They love things in black and white. If you only try to convince them with talk and say you got the impression that this or that is the case, and so on, sure, that's all well and good, but for them, that's not a truly clear result. It might make perfect sense to you, but not to them yet. So, let's get down to brass tacks now. Again, customers love clear results. Let me give you a quick example. From my own experience, where I was involved, a consultant used our methods to guide a team in a mid-sized company through a critical restructuring. And thanks to these clear, data-based results from the potential analysis, he was able to specifically address the strengths and weaknesses of each team member, and then develop effective, individualized measures. The result, the team was not only able to successfully manage the restructuring, but also increase productivity by 25%. That's something. Another case. Our certified partners at Profiling Values often use potential analyses when filling key positions, basically for the final selection, creating added value for both the companies and the candidates, even for those who ultimately aren't hired. Of course, if there are several candidates, only one can get the job. One. And lo and behold, the additional information works wonders, both for the potential employer and also for the participants, whether female or male candidates. So, trust and acceptance increase dramatically. So, if I drop out of a process because someone else got the job, but I still received a potential analysis like that, with feedback that I can actually take something away from, hey, that's really good for the company's employer branding because I'll still speak well of the company, even if I didn't get the job. And to add to that, I've often seen that this was the deciding factor for candidates to join the company that conducted the potential analysis. And that was even without knowing whether the investment would pay off. So, if you've already invested so much beforehand that you can give such detailed feedback to the candidate, if I have several offers, then I think to myself, that's where I'll go. So, do you want to? Ultimately, do you want to become the expert your clients trust? My first trainer said we need to be close to our clients, to be right there with them. And you can also be the competent partner your clients trust. So, integrate things like potential analyses as your special tool, as your signature skill in your repertoire, as a specialty tool in your toolbox. Profile Values offers you a lot in this regard, methods to present solid or verifiable evidence for your work. But please, add other things as well. Our certified partners really have a whole toolkit, a toolbox of methods. And make your skills transparent and measurable. Of course, it feels unfamiliar at first and maybe you're not really comfortable with it. And why is that? It's all just human and not really data and fact-based, but it is. And nowadays, it's simply expected. Thank you so much for joining me today. In the upcoming episodes, I'll dive even deeper into topics like personnel diagnostics, working with values, leadership, and sales. Always with the goal of helping you succeed in your business. So make sure you don't miss out on tuning in. See you next time. Stay curious and hungry for data. Yours, Uli. Bye.